I have not seen Labyrinth, the David Bowie movie with Jim Henson and Jennifer Connelly from the 80s. But here's the thing. It is turning 40, and today we had Kayleigh Donaldson on, and we had Roxana Hadadi on, and they both took me to task for not seeing this movie, and they talked about it in such a beautiful way, because there's something about this era of coming-of-age movies that were sort of made in the late 80s and early 90s that captured something beautiful, and as Roxana says, a little bit dangerous, right? About like the process of growing up. And I just got so much out of this conversation that I am going to make time to go see Labyrinth. I think if you haven't seen Labyrinth, if you have seen Labyrinth, you'll love this conversation. But if you haven't seen it, I think it's going to change your mind. I think it's going to put it at the top of your list. So here we go. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
Nice,
Hi there.
nice to have you here. Listen, you're both Labyrinth people, but there are people out there, including myself, for example. I've not seen Labyrinth, who are not familiar with this sort of fever dream from Jim Henson. And I just want to quickly just kind of establish the tone of the thing we're talking about. So let's just play this clip really quickly.
There's such a sad love deep in your eyes, a kind of pale jewel, open and closed within your eyes.
David Bowie, the Goblin King in the cult classic Labyrinth. Roxana, I'm going to start with you. This is the movie that came out in 1986. It flopped at the box office. Not a lot of people saw it. And then it kind of takes a bit of time, right? And it builds a lot of steam. And then now many people, many generations later, are saying, you know what? This is the movie for me. So I want to ask you, why is this film important to you?
I think it's important because, to me personally, it's important because of like the grandiosity of this world, how
Hmm.
specific this movie is. For people who have correctly seen it, unlike someone on this call, you'll know that like once you see it, you can't forget like the
Hmm.
specificity of the world building. And for me, it was part of like a whole group of movies that were made like within this time period that were this sort of like dark fantasy adventure sort of thing. There was this, there was Return to Oz, there was Princess Bride, there was Willow, there was Time Bandits, eventually there was Hook, right? So like we
Mm-hmm.
sort of used to make these movies that were sort of like coming of age,
Yeah.
but not coming of age and then you have to like save the entire world, like YA sort of coming of age. This more like grounded in fantasy and adventure genre. So like I have a very nostalgic connection to it because it is so of that time and
Mm-hmm.
of like that era of Hollywood, which I don't think exists anymore.
We should say the basic story of the movie is we got a 16-year-old girl, Sarah, but played by Jennifer Connelly. She has to save her baby brother from the Goblin King.
Yes.
That is all I know about this movie, and that is.
Oh my
but Kayleigh, let me ask you: what you discovered this movie as a child as well? But why? What is it about this movie that sort of like stuck around for you?
Yeah, it was actually my grandmother that introduced it to me, which I think says
Mm.
a lot about my grandmother and my entire family, to be honest. I'm a sucker for things that have this kind of baroque, very unique quality. And growing up, I never saw any film that really looked like Labyrinth, and it really influenced the kind of storytelling and the kind of pop culture that I am now still into my 30s. So things like gothic fiction, high fantasy, uh, uh, the works of people like Guillermo del Toro and Hayao Miyazaki, who I think were indelibly influenced by this film.
Hmm.
Uh, and even as Roxana says, you just don't see anything that looks like this now, but also something that tackles a young woman's coming of age in such a pretty daring and, dare I say it, kind of sensual manner. This is really a film about a teenage girl realizing she's about to become an adult, and that is terrifying, but also kind of amazing.
Hmm.
And how she navigates that through the lens of well, David Bowie partly, but also of letting go of her own childhood, but still holding on to qualities that she thinks are really important. There's so many layers to it that maybe you don't see when you're a kid and you're just amazed by the puppetry and the songs. But the more I watch it, and I watch it quite regularly, I feel more layers to it and more things to relate to and understand.
I love the idea of you returning this movie quite regularly, as you say. Like this is just being like a staple of the stuff that you watch all the time. But also, let's get into the David Bowie of it all. Roxana, this is how you actually first discovered Bowie. I
God.
imagine that's you're not the only one. A lot of people discovered Bowie in this particular way as well. He's the Goblin King. He sort of transcends the films in some ways because, like, I've not seen the movie. I've seen plenty of images,
Hmm.
of Bowie in this movie. Talk to me about the choice to cast Bowie as a villain here and what he brings to that character.
Hmm. Well, so like Bowie had already been acting, right? Like he was an established actor at this point. He had obviously done The Man Who Fell to Earth. So he sort of had obviously this like otherworldly rock star persona, like not from this earth persona. So I think it made perfect sense to then put him in this sort of like villainous role.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Henson really wanted him, and there was like some disconnect as to whether the movie should be a musical. Who else could it be? Could it be Prince? Could it be Mick Jagger? It eventually was decided that it would be Bowie. And to sort of follow up on what Kayleigh was saying about like sensuality, like I don't want to say this movie is sexual because that feels weird to say when it is about like a teenage girl, but the Goblin King is representing for her like being a grown up, right? There's this really beautiful like ballroom scene where sort of she's wondering like what could her adult life be like if she were to be with someone like the Goblin King. So I think it's again walking that sort of line of like being sensual if you're old enough to pick up on it, and
Yeah.
sort of what Bowie's doing is like this very like royal arch sort of like amused with everything performance that I think helps keep the movie like light but also dangerous, right? Like you don't know what Bowie is going to do, and I think that was the power of Bowie.
First of all, I think the thing you're talking about is like those are movies that I really feel are missing right now in this window, which is
Yes.
like these coming of age movies that are like, it is rooted in teenagehood and it is rooted in like a sensitive sort of coming to adulthood kind of period of time that does sort of thread the needle of like you're becoming aware of yourself as a sensual being, but also like the movie can't quite go there. It can just only allude
Right.
to it and kind of handle it with a
Right.
bit of care. And
Yes.
the idea of like a movie that can sort of like walk that line and go like, oh yeah, we're aware that these things are happening, but also like not descend fully into the creepy when it comes to that. That's a rare gift. That's a thing that sort of I think I really sort of miss in general. So Kayleigh, let me ask you the same kind of question. What do you think Bowie brings to this performance that works really well?
I think that just the sheer presence that he had. He was such a unique performer, and we'll probably never have another David Bowie. People talk about who would you cast now. I genuinely don't think we have anything equivalent to him. But he also sort of understands the tone and the humor of this. He's playing a guy who is so bored of his own job and his own subjects. The way that he is surrounded by these goblins, who he has to goad into laughing at his jokes, and it clearly annoys the hell out of him. It's extremely funny, but he also has that incredible regal quality. He is wearing the most ridiculous outfit of the 80s, and he makes it look so natural. There is just no one else could pull that off. I mean, the way that this blends in with so much of prior Bowie images that he had in characters, people like the Fenwick Duke or Ziggy Stardust, it really does feel like a natural extension of that. It just happens to also involve Muppets.
Well, I was going to say, we've talked a bunch about David Bowie, but Roxana, we got to talk about the Jim Henson of it all. Because Jim Henson was creator of Labyrinth, he's a puppeteer, animator, best known for the Muppets. Talk to me about the thing that, like, his imprint on this movie. What's the thing that sets him apart as a filmmaker here?
I mean, I don't think I will honestly say I don't think this movie works if it were like people instead of puppets. Like I think that again, sort of like this strange realm is so memorable because all of the puppets are of such like unique look and quality. And what Henson did, right? Like I really think that he, at least for us in the US, like when you think of puppetry, you think of Henson and how these puppets looked, like their outsized facial features, like the strange way that they moved, very like limb forward. And so I just think like when you watch this movie, there's so many different types of puppets on display. And as Kayleigh said, like they're bringing forth such unique personality of being afraid of the Goblin King or excited to help. There's this long sequence where one of these characters belches so deeply that like the topography of the land they're on changes. He like triggers like a rock fall. So just these really unique things that feel incredibly tactile. And I do think, you know, as Kayleigh said, like Guillermo del Toro was influenced by this. The Leica like stop motion animation studio was influenced by this. Like you're really seeing sort of like the tendrils of Henson's work in our reality, but he still was so one of a kind that I don't think, you know, like I don't think I said this before, but I don't think Labyrinth works with people. Like you need the puppets to add to that sense of strangeness and loveliness.
There are rumors that there's a sequel or a remake kind of in the works right now with Robert Eggers at the helm. He's the guy who made The Witch and Nosferatu. I'm not going to get into whether you guys think that works or not, because Kayleigh was already like, there's only one David Bowie and nothing else. But yeah, this idea that this movie's headed right now back to the theaters, just 30 seconds to each of you about like, what do you think we'll get right now out of Labyrinth returning to theaters? Kayleigh, I'll start with you.
I think just the chance to see something so uniquely handmade. I mean, every single creature in that film is imbued with such character, right down to the smallest little blue worm. And in an age where everything is wall-to-wall CGI and we're dealing with the scourge of generative AI, to see something with such immense human care behind it, I think is absolutely worthwhile. And all of the songs are bangers.
My baby's love had gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew.
Roxana, 30 seconds to you, pal. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, like, obviously to a certain degree, CGI visual effects, they're obviously also made by people, right? But I think that what Labyrinth does is, like, it creates this world where you think that, like, if I could just put my hand through the screen, I could feel the rock walls of the labyrinth. I could feel how weirdly furry this character is. I could feel the, like, stench of this bog that they're all being, like, threatened with, right? There's just an amount of human specificity to this film that I think is really beautiful and that I think sort of, compels viewers of all ages.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate you guys being here, for your insight and for your time. Thank you so much again, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kayleigh Donaldson is a pop culture writer and creator of the Substack Gossip Reading Club. Roxana Hadadi is a TV critic at Vulture. By the way, Labyrinth is back in North American theaters this Thursday until Sunday. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We'll be back tomorrow, so if you're around, I would love to see you then. Have a great day.